This investment of $1.7 million represents the single largest investment in an ambulance fleet in our history. That we stand proudly, knowing that perseverance has paid off and that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis now have the modern emergency fleet they deserve. So to the management and staff of Joseph N. France General Hospital, and indeed to the entire healthcare workforce, I say thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your professionalism. Thank you for your partnership. Once and for all, we will have ambulances that are well designed for our country, that have the specs to respond to our needs. And we will never, ever say that the ambulance is not available because it's done. Thank you very much for your collaboration and for your kind support. When we welcome visitors and vessels that share our vision for a greener planet, we are not just opening our ports, we are opening opportunities for collaboration, innovation, and mutual growth. Every visitor who steps onto our shores becomes a part of our story. They carry with them a piece of our spirit, our warmth, our culture, and our pride as a people. Tourism for us is not only about the economy, it is about identity, excellence, and the way we show the world who we are as a people. So today, on behalf of the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis, I extend warm, heartfelt welcome to the Star of the Seas, its crew, and its passengers. May this inaugural call mark the beginning of a long, fruitful partnership, one rooted in shared values, sustainability, and progress. And I finally say, once again, welcome to the best place to be in the Caribbean any time of the year, St. Kitts and Nevis.
Today, we can proudly say that this Labour administration, led by our Prime Minister, has kept that commitment to you.
And thank you so much. Continue supporting our initiative as we push towards the Good Island.
I want to say give thanks to the Minister of Constituency Number 3, Candice Maynard, and the whole government, because he alone can make it happen, you know. Yeah, and the government, yeah, the man do a good job, you know. The man is a man of the word, and I respect them for that.
Without her, we could not get it, because they say Washington give them a lot of fake things. I ain't not about the fake, because I went away. I went reward for Candice to get it.
I'm so happy today that the Labour government had promised that we will own the land, and I know that they will fulfill the promise. And today I am so full, and I want to thank the Labour Party so much. Labour forever. Today is a happy, happy day.
I would just like to say thank you to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. I really had thought that, you know, it's something that I never had thought that it would have come true.
I would like to say thank you for remembering us because it was promised about 7 years ago, and then the government came into power, and just after 2 to 3 years, they have delivered. So the Prime Minister, thank you for your initiative, and to Congress for keeping a promise, and to the Sustainable Development for not forgetting us, and for doing your work very well, that this day could be to come true.
Yeah. If you know every day we have to make more noise. So it's because it's a Tanga and Congress and the Prime Minister, right? So I feel a little better. So I have to do anything now. Nobody can hold me from there now. I don't care who come and tell me them one. I don't got this here. So they can hold me again from the country.
Mr. Carly sleeping tiger, Jeffrey Hadley, the part of a standing point, you know, so this couldn't be possible, so the chance can appreciate it, yeah. This is my grandson, I love him very much, and this man lived with me, and he was one of the first to get piece of this land already, even before I get this. Even before I get this in my hand, he done that where belongs to him. And not only that, I take my time and buy some blocks. I'm a builder and started something for him. Yeah, man. Yes. I'm going to tell you that was so much. My children, they're happy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terrance Drew, members of the media, Mrs. Lanicia Collins Williams, our sign language interpreter, and all our viewers and listeners joining us across St. Kitts and Nevis and throughout the diaspora. Welcome. I am Sherma Matthew, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another edition of the Roundtable. This series continues to serve as one of the government's signature platforms for open dialogue, transparency, and engagement, where the nation's leader sits down with members of the media to discuss issues that matter most to our people. It is through forums like this that we bridge the gap between government policy and the public understanding, ensuring that the people remain at the center of national development. Joining us today are representatives from SKNIS, Kailani Johnson, ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, Roma Brotherson, SKN Source, Ebony Brandon, and SKN Newsline, Glenn Bart. We thank each of you for being here and for the important role you play in keeping the nation informed. As we prepare to begin, I kindly ask that everyone place their phones on silent so that our conversation can flow smoothly and without any interruption. At this time, I now invite the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terrance Drew, to deliver his opening statement. Following the Prime Minister's remarks, we will open the floor for questions from media, which will follow with a discussion. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you all for tuning in from near and far. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Director, SKNS, Sharima Matthew. I want to welcome all of you once again to this edition of the Roundtable, where, as was mentioned before, I have a conversation with you members of the press, members of the media, in a way to profoundly discuss matters of national insurance, importance rather, so that our people can be well informed And so I want to welcome all of our citizens to this edition as well. Good afternoon, welcome. As always, this forum is about transparency, accountability, and meaningful engagement. It gives me the opportunity to update the nation through the media represented here, and then to hear your questions directly as well. Over the past several weeks, our government has been deeply engaged, both at home and abroad, in advancing the sustainable island state agenda. And I wish to begin by reporting on several developments.
We apologize, but we had technical difficulties. We will allow the Prime Minister once again to start his presentation.
So are we connected? Everything is connected now? Okay, and let's please keep down the noise. Thank you very much. As you know, we had budget consultations during the month of October. And during that month, we went to Sadler's on October 15th. And then we went to October 23rd, we went to Sandy Point. On October 29th, we came over to St. Kitts Marriott, where we had a consultation, a forum with our people under the theme, turning conversations into action, building on our sustainable island state, or building our sustainable island together. These consultations brought forward clear priorities, which were cost of living, food security, healthcare upgrades, infrastructure, climate resilience, youth empowerment, economic opportunity, and much more. These, of course, would have an influence into the final iteration of the budget that I will present in Parliament this before year ends. Later, I traveled to Colombia, to Santa Marta, Colombia, to attend the 4th CELAC EU Summit. While there, I joined other regional and international leaders in a plenary session where we reaffirmed and advocated for key measures and policies that contribute toward our financial health and our sustainability and resilience efforts. There, I reaffirmed that the Caribbean and Latin America have always been a zone of peace, and I further called for stronger global action on climate change and fair climate financing. In the margin of the summit, Foreign Minister, Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, and we had constructive bilateral meetings with Colombia's Minister of Health, Dr. Guillermo Jaramillo. As you know, he is a medical doctor as well, and a number of our citizens access medical care in Colombia. And so we wanted to meet with the Minister of Health of Colombia to strengthen our relationship and our cooperation to the advancement of healthcare for our people. And so we wanted to make sure that when our people travel to Colombia, that they are well protected. We also had conversations with the EU on matters to deal with CBI and other interest areas. But the CBI specifically, because as you know, we have led on significant changes with respect to how the CBI as a business and as a sector is conducted here in the region. We now have a regional regulator to oversee the operations, and I wanted to bring that directly to the EU leadership. We then move on to Taiwan, and I traveled to Taiwan for an official state visit where I met with President Lai, and we, of course, had bilateral discussions, and we spoke about how we will deepen our relationships. And I say relationships because we have a number of areas where we are building out relationships to make sure that the overall strength of our collaboration is very, very strong. And so we discussed the matter of our hospital, which we are doing in collaboration with the Republic of China, Taiwan. We discussed the desalination plant. We also discussed our IT transformation, our digital ID, which will be launched in 2026. I visited the Taipei Veterans General Hospital, which is a top hospital in that part of the world, not just Taiwan. And we, of course, discussed areas where we will strengthen our relationship. Already we have done a number of activities together, but I think the thrust now is to strengthen that relationship. So I want to thank the leadership at Taipei Veterans General Hospital. While in Taiwan, we also explored agricultural cooperation. This is to help us to strengthen our food security, and I'll speak more to that as well. We spoke about climate resilience and technology as a part of economic transformation. I also went on to discuss with TransE Energy Technology Corporation. That corporation has completed 2 buses that are going to transport our children and our elderly population. These buses are electric buses. And of course, the station, the charging station, we have 2 of them coming with the buses. So that will not be an issue. So these are state-of-the-art buses with technology that is very advanced to help us to transport our children here and our elderly population. I also had the opportunity to sign a Bastia Tainan and a Bastia Taipei sister city agreements. This is to help to build a closer relationship between our capital and cities in Taiwan. We will also extend that to Charlestown as well. I want to say that Ambassador Donier, His Excellency Donier Francis, did an excellent job in making sure that our visit to Taiwan was one that was well organized and one that bore much fruits that I've shared to some extent with our people already. Off of the trips, with respect to Jamaica, as we know, Jamaica was devastated by Hurricane Melissa, Category 5, in the latter part of the hurricane season, something that is triggered or was triggered by climate change. This is why I kept saying from day one that we needed to get quickly to a sustainable island state. But these are the type of activities in terms of the climate that we would suffer as a region, as a people, as a world. And so we have to be well prepared here in St. Kitts and Nevis as well, not assume that our day will not come. All the data suggests that this will be normal way of things with respect to climate change within the region. These weather patterns are not going to be ad hoc anymore. They will become the norm. And so getting towards our sustainable island state is the most important activity that we can engage in. And that is why, to a great extent, I have invested with this government heavily in building out the sustainable island state. We have invested tens of millions of dollars into water. We have invested significantly into energy. We are now investing, as you know, heavily in healthcare, in our digital transformation, and we are continuing. So if I were to be asked, what have you prioritized and where have you put our money? Our money has been put fundamentally into building out a sustainable island state so that we can deal with the new realities that we are dealing with, including climate change. This is a serious, serious matter. And so we have to invest heavily in this. We have to prioritize how we are going to spend our money, where we are going to put it. Because when we see what happened to Jamaica, we cannot assume that here in St. Kitts and Nevis that will not happen to us. That is why I've taken the decisions along with the team, this administration, to invest in these sustainable, resilient areas, not just infrastructure, but other areas, to make sure that we are prepared as possible. We are as prepared as much as possible. Now, with respect to Jamaica, we have pledged $100,000 almost immediately. In addition to that, we have also sent workers from Skelec and Nevlec. And in addition to that, we continue to work with OECS, CDEMA, and CARICOM, where through those various entities, we continue to support the Jamaican recovery effort. I want to really extend our deep support to Prime Minister Andrew Holness and all of the people of Jamaica, whether they live in Jamaica, overseas. Even here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have a Jamaican community here, and I want to say to them that this government will continue to support Jamaica in its recovery. We were able to secure our students. We brought home our students who were in the way of the hurricane. We also were able to look after those who decided to stay, and they stayed at the Pegasus Hotel. So I want to thank the leadership of the Pegasus Hotel for hosting our students and taking care of them. I want to also thank Intercaribbean and the CEO and owner, Mr. Lyndon, who did a significant amount of maneuvering in ensuring that our students will get home out of harm's way. And so I really want to thank Intercaribbean for its significant collaboration. Lastly, I will mention here that I want to take the time to really commend the Honorable Marsha Henderson for the job that she has been doing in beautifying Central Bastia. We see political actors acting out of character. I can't say out of character, but acting very strangely to an activity that is really helping to clean up Central Basti. I said to them, instead of acting in these type of ways that are unbecoming of an upright citizen, why don't you join the campaign and help the minister to clean up Central Bastia? And so I want to really support the minister. She is very composure has been at the highest level. Her dedication and her commitment to her constituency. And even though she has come under what I will say, these type of attacks that really have no reasoning behind them. I call them strange attacks. She continues to work with the community to get Central Bastia to a better state of cleanliness. I look at the mural and the painting. I must say that they are excellent. I see them moving around the country and around the region because I see some people send them to me who I did not expect would send them to me. So it means, therefore, that this has really had a significant impact. And therefore, I want to commend the minister and to let her know that she has my full support. She has the full support of the Labour administration, the Labour government, the Labour Party, and I'm sure even beyond the Labour Party, she has strong support in the community where it matters and the country on a whole. And not to be deterred by these political actors who are acting out of character. And when you see what they're saying and how they're acting, I will implore that they choose to act better, show a higher level of professionalism and decorum so that they can set an example to the people of the community, especially the young people. I've also seen the defacement of properties and around where people are spraying SOS SKN. You know, it is, in a black spray paint. I want to say that that is really unbecoming of who we are as a people. And so I continue to ask our people to act in a way that is, becoming of a modern civilized society and to set good examples for our young people. But I want to let the minister know that she does not stand alone. She stands with a lot of support, including, and very importantly, the support from her own community. So with that, I just wanted to share a few words with you, our citizens and residents, and also with the press that is here. Now give you the opportunity to ask the questions that you might have, and I would, of course, respond.
Thank you, Prime Minister. So we now invite the press to go ahead and dialogue with the Prime Minister. We ask each of you to be very respectful, and you're allowed 2 questions at a time. Give others a chance to ask their questions. And if time permits, then we can always throw in more questions. The floor is open.
Okay. Good afternoon, Prime Minister.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Welcome back to The Rock, as I say.
Welcome back as well. Haven't seen you in a while.
Okay. Now, we are now approaching the end of the year, the end of the fiscal year. And I was wondering if you can give us your feedback on where we are economically and fiscally. What condition is what's the state of condition of our country? And I might as well tag this on because people are asking me, at least some people are asking me, whether or not the government will be paying a double salary at the end of this year. So perhaps you can address those 2 things. Then with regards to destiny, based on the comments that have been circulating, some comments are obviously political, but others are there are other people who are expressing genuine concern about the SSC legislation. So based on what you've heard, what you've been hearing coming out of the various community consultations, does your government have any intention of amending the SSC as it is to make it tighter and perhaps less prone to opportunities of misinterpretation. If you can comment on those two matters.
Thank you, Mr. Bat. I think those were two fair questions. I can start with the last question first. You talk about destiny. Let me say that the SSZ is a piece of legislation that was passed in the federal parliament. It, of course, was put out in circulation before it was passed. It was sent to members of parliament to review it so that they can prepare to come to parliament to comment on it. And I must reiterate that on the opposition side, persons who are now talking had nothing to say. To me, that was a dereliction of their, I would say, responsibility in the parliament. If you choose not to talk on it, you choose not to talk. But you cannot refuse to talk in parliament or say nothing, and then after parliament, you have a whole lot of things to say. And so I don't take those politicians seriously. For them, it is just a matter of petty politics and not serious discourse on a fundamental piece of legislation. I wanted to say that. But to get to your point, Mr. Bat, you said with respect to the legislation and the genuine concerns of citizens. And that is why I held a town hall meeting, because I will never, ever disregard our citizens' concern about anything. I take it very seriously. So I separate our genuine concerning citizens from politicians who are playing petty politics. So their side, I'm talking directly to our people who have genuine concern. And so I will say to them that I've said before, and I'm very serious about this, that the legislation was set up so that any major development that can affect us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, or serious questions would be asked, that they must pass through Parliament. We have had major developments where there have been many discussions, and not one of them passed through Parliament. The people only hear about of an agreement after. Where was the meaningful discussion? For example, you had Four Seasons. I mean, Four Seasons is an excellent business, but was the agreement discussed in Parliament? The people hear about it, I can say, after. That the cabinet agreed to something and some sort of development will take place. But where was the openness and transparency? But I will say that the Four Seasons is an excellent business here in our federation. And so this SSD legislation is to make sure that all of these things must come to Parliament. So this is really an advancement in our whole governance structure when it comes to transparency. So this is a very transparent way. If I had not brought this piece of legislation to Parliament, whatever project that we are discussing or the people are discussing at this particular time would have been implemented without the people understanding. But because of the legislation, they have to see it. They have to even see the agreement before anything is implemented. And I'm very, very proud of that. And those who look at this objectively would recognize that that is the intention. And I always said, if there are opportunities to tighten it, I would tighten it. And if there are opportunities to amend it, I will amend it to make it tighter. I hear some political people talking about repeal. These are people who want to go back to the dark days of significant, large agreements taking place in a back room in a cabinet session. I am not going back there. These things must be in the open so that we can have the lively debate that we are having now. When I hear the debate about the SSZ and so forth, I feel good. And the reason why I feel good is that I say that the objective has been, I would say, derived. has been reached, has been accomplished. It was always the intention that any major development to come to St. Kitts and Nevis, that it would be so open that our people can have significant discussion on it and around it before it is implemented. So this is an advancement of our democracy. And those who look at it objectively would recognize the real intention. I have not hid the intention, I have said it openly. And you ask a very important question, Mr. Bat. Would I amend it? Of course, if I see areas to make it stronger, I will go to Parliament and amend it. Make it stronger, tighter. That is what the whole discussion is about, because it is not written in a way that it cannot be amended. But to take this out, that's irresponsible. I would like to ask those parliamentarians or those politicians who are promoting that. So you want to remove a law that has brought to light any major development that will take place in St. Kitts and Nevis. That's an advancement in our transparency. What they should be saying to me is, Prime Minister, we want to help you to tighten it up, make it stronger, instead of the irresponsible statements about repeal. You know, you can't repeal something that is giving light of day to a major development. So yes, I am definitely open. I have said it and I'll say it again, to make it tighter and tighter so that the questions that are being asked about sovereignty, as I said, and I said in my town hall, that the sovereignty can never be threatened. This law is to make sure that that never happens. And if there's any space in there, tighten it up. That our independence can never be affected. And if there's any space in there where that is questioned, and you use some very good words, tighten it up. If there's any question about who would be in charge of the security, the police, the commissioner of police according to the Constitution, nobody else. So if there are questions about that, tighten it up. If there are questions about customs, tighten it up, because customs is who deal with our borders here. We have a Coast Guard, we have customs and border control. We have immigration. There's only one immigration here, one customs here, one police organization here. So nothing at all, and one court system. So nothing at all that affects any of those would be tolerated in any development. And if there's any space in the SSZ that people think there can be a space, well, I will tighten it up. But what the SSZ does, that even if somebody think they're smart and there might be a space, each development has to come individually to Parliament. So the SSZ does not give any development to be established, you know. So you spoke about the destiny. I have not received anything about destiny. But I'll tell you what I'll do if I were to receive something. Destiny has to stand on its own law. If it is passed, and if it is passed, it must say in there, nothing to affect sovereignty, nothing to affect our independence, nothing to affect or subvert the authority of the police or the customs or immigration or the court system or any system at all, because it must be governed by our Constitution fully. And that separate law will say that. So you can't sneak through any door and look for any light of day. It will say that. But I take your point that I am, as I said before, I will tighten it up where I have to tighten it up. And I will keep looking at it. Let me say with respect to, you spoke about destiny. I have not received anything as the Prime Minister. As the legislation says, it has to pass through the Parliament in Nevis and then come to the federal to be looked at. And then I will put a committee in place, because the legislation speaks to that, to review it and to inform me and all of these things. So if there's any inkling that our Constitution is going to be affected, destiny can't be passed nowhere. If there's any inkling that our court system would be subverted, destiny can't pass nowhere. If there's anything that the police or immigration or border security or anything to do with our Constitution and the laws that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis will be affronted by this, then it has to be amended. I can't pass. That is what SSC does. SSZ makes sure that nobody could get through the back door like in the past. In the past, things get through the back door, you only hear about them. But SSZ said, come up front And if you don't pass these things, you can't pass in Parliament. You go back to the drawing board and you fix it. But I'm not going to make that decision by myself. There's a committee that will be put in place to review anything that comes to me, whether it is in St. Kitts or if it comes from Nevis. I am not here to tell Nevis what they can do or not do with their land. Because people have sold their land, I am told. I'm told that even politicians have sold their land. I am not here to tell Nevis. The Constitution tells me I cannot tell Nevis what to do with its land. But as the Prime Minister, and under our Constitution, the federal law is what governs a number of things. The court, border security, immigration, police, and so forth. And I have to make sure that none of those things is affected by any development, whether in Nevis or St. Kitts. So I want to reassure people, two things will happen. One, I will set up a committee to review any proposed development under the SSZ. So if the destiny is something people are talking about that has not reached me, when that reaches me, if it reaches me, that has to go under that scrutiny. That committee will make sure that the Constitution is not violated in any way. It is like a stop to check and make sure you can't sneak through. What these politicians who are calling for repeal, what they really want is they're hoping that they get into office and they can make backdoor deals and they would never have to be subjected to a piece of legislation like the SSZ before anything major like that is implemented. But that will not happen under this administration that has stood on the side of integrity in public life, transparency, and other aspects of good governance. Good governance means a lot to us. So I just want to reassure people that SSZ is really a protection. SSZ has nothing to do with destiny. SSZ is a law that looks at all major projects that want to come in a particular way. So the destiny is one. You might have another one tomorrow and another one here and another one there. What this does is to make sure that whatever the development is that want to come under the, here in St. Kitts and Nevis and comes under the special sustainability zone, that it has to go through vigorous review to ensure that at no point our sovereignty, constitution, independence, or otherwise will be affected. So this talk of state within a state, to me, is just what it is, talk. I will say this has put us in the best situation ever, because had it not been for the SSZ, projects can be implemented and you only hear about them after. This SSZ has made sure that they must come to the front door that all our people can see and let our people engage on it. So I'm happy with respect to that. With respect to economics and the fiscal position, let me say what I've always said, is that part of the failure of the last administration was to bring our country to depend so heavily on the CBI program. You cannot allow your country ever, as far as possible, to depend on one sector, especially a sector over which you don't have a lot of control. That was a significant error. And if you ask me, for making an error like that, those parties should not see the light of day again. No real efforts were made to diversify our economy. Mr. Wright, you remember? In 2022, when they refused to open up the country so that tourism can get back on its feet, we are lagging behind in tourism. Only this year, we are projected to catch up because they would not open up the country because they wanted to hold a next election under COVID restrictions to give them an unfair advantage again. That was a fact. And that is why I said to them, under no circumstances, me being the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party will agree to any elections under any COVID restrictions. I told them that. And as soon as they open up the country, we know what the results were. But I'm simply saying that they were not serious about tourism. All the other countries rebounded very quickly when it came to tourism and the economy because they opened up early. We should have opened up since May of 2022. when I got into office in August of 2022, the country was still closed. I remember that meeting I had with the health team, including the CMO and the then medical chief of staff and others. And I said, show me the data, where the data says that St. Kitts and Nevis must be closed down. The data said what I knew the data would say, because I've been saying it on the campaign trail, that we needed to open up the country and we were not at risk. The country should have been opened up at least since May of 2022, which would have given a significant boost to our tourism. Instead, we stayed closed down until August, so we couldn't get into the itinerary of many of these cruise ships and tourist businesses and so forth for the 2022-2023, and that is why we lagged behind. And only just now we are recovering under the leadership in the tourism sector of the Honorable Marsha Henderson. That hurt our economy bad. That cost us tens of millions of dollars. Tens of millions of dollars. Nonetheless, we move forward. The other thing is, almost all of the other sectors were crippled. And the only thing we were depending on is CBI inflows. CBI inflows and no diversification. That is why we have taken the position that we must diversify the economy. So what are we doing? Look at the areas. We're developing the energy sector. We're developing water, IT, healthcare, construction, expanding agriculture, which I can speak to even more, expanding even tourism, strengthening CBI so that it can be as strong and stable as possible. And so when you look at the Sustainable Island State Agenda, there are 7 pillars, and these, of course, will give us the opportunity to diversify. So how do I feel going in? Good. Why? Because we are seeing all of our plans to build a new economy, a diversified economy that we call SEED, would now become a reality. The hospital, I hear a lot of talk about it, but as I've said from the beginning, and I've been very transparent, that you don't rush a hospital. You work prudently and as quickly as possible, but the hospital is one of the most complicated buildings or infrastructural project that you'll ever do. It's too detailed. Whereas you have a classroom and you can put up 4 walls and something, to build a hospital, you're talking about lines with oxygen and all sorts of provisions for specialized equipment and high-tech equipment. And so the final drawings are now before the building board, and we would expect approval within the next few days. That is where we have reached. And then after approval in the next few days, we are moving towards full construction. And construction will begin in December of 2025. I have not lied to the people. I've been straight up. I wish I could have, pushed the hospital. But when you're starting from zero, virgin land, new plans, new strategy and so forth, that in itself carries a specific time period, even though we are working as quickly and as prudently as possible. I speak of that because that is part of our economic development. That will create a lot of jobs in construction. Creating a better healthcare and protecting the health of your people has a long-term socio-economic impact. I mean, when you look at the JNF is not in a position to survive a Category 5 hurricane. It is not structured for that. I want to thank God for protecting us over these years and help us to get to that. If something were to happen, I'm praying that nothing happens before we get to that. Look at Jamaica. When you see what happened to the hospital in Black River, I mean, totally destroyed. Clinics gone. You see the hospital beds and, that should send a strong message to all of us that we really need to get this infrastructure as quickly as possible. But to build a hospital of such infrastructural integrity, plus being able to serve our people well, it has gone through all of the iterations. And the hospital is about to start, and I want to thank the Republic of China, Taiwan. That will create a lot of jobs and our socio-economic reinforcement, because it will provide better healthcare for our people and more sustainable healthcare, because you'll have an institution that can withstand the scourge of climate change and help us to advance our healthcare here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so that is something. When you look at the IT sector, we are going to launch a full pilot project in January of 2026 for our national ID. And I want to thank the Republic of China, Taiwan again. We have collaborated. I mean, that is a significant development. Right now, we have scanned all of our births and deaths at our registry from the 1950s up to now. That's how far we have reached. So that is going to give us, we're going to start the pilot study for the national ID. So by mid next year, maybe in the third quarter, we want everybody to have a national ID. And so you can conduct your business from wherever you want. So we want to reach the point where you can even apply for your birth certificate online and apply for your passport online. We are very, very advanced. That is going to help our economic advancement because the more technologically we become more efficient. Becoming more efficient, of course, save resources, the ease of doing business, the speed of doing business, all those will have tremendous economic benefits. When you look at the matter also of the housing, I mean, right now I was just updated. We have houses being built in Stapleton, in Gillards, in Otleys, in Newtown area. Right now we are going to, in Harry Phipps, I think Harry Phipps is in Halfway Tree, thank you. Right now we are going to Race Course, Newton Ground. They have laid out the plans, construction, digging of the foundation to start on Monday. Then we have Sandy Point, where we're developing, and then back in constituency number 3. So all within just 4 weeks, all the constituencies in St. Kitts and Nevis will have houses being built. And these houses are being built with wall roof with the opportunity to extend up top. But the reason why we are reinforcing them 8-inch block with steel and concrete wall roof is so that they can sustain category 5 hurricanes. That is serious business. So we have a lot of houses being built at this time. To the point where now, I'm being told by the companies here in St. Kitts and Nevis who produce concrete that they will not be able to keep up. They told me that. They said, Prime Minister really consider staggering these projects? They have said that to me. So I said, which project I will stagger? I can't stagger the houses because we need to get these houses because, you know, a hurricane season is upon us again. And we need to get better housing for our people as we go along. I can't slow down the hospital because I've always said from the beginning, even when I didn't have the fully support for hospital, because people may not have seen it, then I hope Jamaica has told us that we need a hospital. Because we need to get to a hospital that can survive category 5 hurricanes as quickly as possible. Then you have the school, of course, that is there. Then in addition to that, you have the Fort Thomas project, which is on its way. You have the Ritz-Carlton, and I'm meeting with the people on the 5th of December. And just to let us know, the government has written to the persons who are occupying areas in the southeast area, Southeast Peninsula area. The government is offering them relocation. The government is offering them help for relocation to defray any cost, because we think they're our people and we should, even though they're on private land and they're squatting and the law says they have to get off, we believe that there should be a sort of approach to help, because these are our people. And even though they should not be squatting, they still conduct business. So we just can't disregard that. We ask the owners, don't just disregard that. So we have found they are now supposed to meet with tourism or Frigate Bay Corporation as well for their relocation, and they will be helped to relocate so that the hotel can start its construction. Significant work has gone in terms of the plans, the geotechnical work, the soil testing, and all of that over on the Southeast Peninsula. And so we want the developers who we have invited, because they want to invest in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we have to attract investment. They have come and they have bought private land to the tune of about 17 to 18 million US dollars, nothing at all to do with the government. That's pure private business. And so our people who are there, we are going to help them. We have extended, our hands to help and not to leave them stranded. I'm asking them to really comply with the law, access the help that we are offering so that we can get a major hotel development that will provide a lot of jobs and for the short term and the long term, lift our tourist industry that will help all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, as tourism is a major plank of our economic layout. And so we have offered that. And a caring Labour government will do that. We will not just watch people just be thrown on the road. We will seek to help and assist. And so I want to say to our people that we have written and we have set up a plan to assist in the transition to a different area to conduct their business. I say all of that because you asked me about the economy, and the economy is a big question. And so I talk about the hospital, I talk about hotel development, I talk about the school, I talk about whole housing. With respect to food security, I want to say today that we have put a new plan in place, or advanced plan in place, to deal with the inputs with respect to agriculture. As far as the feed is concerned, we have set up a separate account in the government so that there can be no slowness in terms of payments for feed, and make sure the feed come in on a timely basis so that there's no delay to get them to the animals. Other inputs such as, pesticides and other things, those are going to be set up in a particular way. And so I want to reassure the farmers that we have stepped in. And in that account, we are going to see that account almost immediately with $1 million to make sure that there is no delay in anything. We will not turn our feed fully over to any private entity. The government will continue to ensure that it is well protected, sustainable, and secure. That is to make sure that we control also the price of what we produce locally. We don't want egg prices to go up. We don't want prices to go up. So we will make sure that the inputs that are necessary and the concessions we give, those things will continue. And so we'll be able to control pricing as far as the local market is concerned. However, when it comes to pricing and that is part of the economy, we have what you call imported inflation. If you're going to buy cornflakes, for example, look at the States. We watch a lot of TV from the United States of America. We are seeing the prices of things are going up. Well, if we buy from the US, we must expect the prices here to go up. That is what you call imported inflation. So if Kellogg's gone up in the United States, and that's the source of buying your Kellogg's, well, when they come here, it must go up as well. That is why we want to encourage our people to eat local, to have a backyard garden, and to buy regional brands. I'm not telling people what they should or should not. I can only encourage, because based on where the United States is headed, is very, very challenging in terms of prices. Their prices go up, ours go up. And remember, we have zero VAT on a lot of these basic foods. But the thing is, the bottom line is, the baseline price has increased in the United States. But we will create that account, make sure we have those inputs flowing to manage the cost of local foods, local goods, and encourage our people to eat locally and regionally so that, in a sense, we can help to manage how much we pay for products. But as long as there's inflation in the United States and we are going to consume what the United States produces, no country in the world would be able to defray the cost, because the cost is imported inflation. And so I wanted to touch that as well. And so in a broader sense, that we can see that our economic plan is now coming together, and we expect in this year coming up that we'll see growth, much more growth happening. We'll have major projects taking place, so there'll be a lot of jobs directly in construction and related areas, the technical areas, and the natural spin-off. Because if somebody is working construction, they're going to go to this shop in the community. They're going to go down 4th Street and buy something. They're going to go, so it's going to be spin-off that will be taking place in the economy. So we have a lot of activities that will take place in the construction and how that will impact along with the growth of the economy, transform into a technological space. All of these things will help to grow St. Kitts and Nevis. And the last one I'll touch is the energy sector. I can say today that we had an assessment done for our energy sector, renewable energy, by a company called Castalia. And so we will be embarking on renewable energy infrastructure next year. Because we now have a full professional assessment by a reputable international company. And also to be open and transparent that geothermal is very advanced. That will be discussed in depth as well with our people. We are very advanced. We have already actually procured a company. The company is already chosen. It's a company from Iceland. Iceland, we know, is one of the most advanced places on earth for geothermal. So it had gone through all of the bidding process. That was, of course, part of that was the CDB, who is a fundamental part of that. And the company to do the drilling for geothermal on Nevis is an Icelandic company that is already selected. So I can say that is how advanced we are with respect to geothermal. So creating an energy sector, whether is solar energy, geothermal energy, and so forth, that will be part of the new economy as well. And so in a sense, I hope I answered destiny and the economy. The reason why I took so long on those two, because destiny is something that is being discussed. And I see politicians talking about they are protesting, and I'm laughing, because when they were supposed to come to Parliament and have a serious debate, I don't know what they were doing, a dereliction of what I would call duty. And instead of them coming and giving suggestions on how to strengthen it, they're talking about repeal. When people talk about repeal of such a piece of legislation, that even destiny that they're speaking about must be subjected to it and must meet all these requirements. Can you imagine if it wasn't there? So then all of the concerns you have about destiny could have come in a project signed off by a cabinet, not come to the light of day, and then after you hear about it? Well, that is not going to happen with us. This SSZ, I am, as I tell you back, will strengthen it even more. And if the destiny plan comes, I'm telling you, it has some very strict rules it must comply with. First being, it cannot violate not even a square millimeter of the paper on which our Constitution is written. That is the SSZ in action. Protect us against all these things that our people are rightfully, concerned about.
Just one other last thing, Prime Minister, with regards to the question I was asking. Could you also comment on some of the people expressing need for a double salary?
Right. So, no, I mean, when it comes to end of year in St. Kitts and Nevis, people normally ask about a bonus, and all workers will always ask about a bonus. I cannot say. I don't think it's ever tradition to sit at a press conference and declare it like that. But I would say this year, we have invested significantly into the sustainable island state. Because if that Category 5 hurricane had hit us bad, we would have been in serious trouble. I want to invest what we have in water. Where do you live, Bat? And how you have water 24/7? So you're somebody who is very fortunate. But there are people in St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, St. Kitts, who live, for example, Shadwell. Serious water problem. In St. Peter's, serious water problem. So we had to take over $50 million in cash and just invest right away in drilling and desalination plants. That's the priority. When you look at the state of our hospital, a leaking roof, we fix it, we fix, but we are keeping up to making sure it doesn't continue to leak. Because the integrity is affected. We are being told that the roof has served its purpose. And so that is why we decided we have to invest millions of dollars into a healthcare facility. When you look at the Basque High School that was neglected for 7 years under the previous administration, we are pumping money into that to get it going. Housing, we have to pump money into that. Our energy, remember again, Mr. Bat, we are still buying energy from a company called Agreco because we did not have the generators to generate energy. We have invested, are moving to invest 40 to 50 million US dollars in new generators. So our focus has been energy, which is very basic. I mean, we don't have all the money in the world, but where would we invest? In energy, in water, in hospital, in housing, in infrastructure. And the next thing, and we have invested significantly, for example, the ambulances, 5 brand new ambulances, because we had ambulance problem. Imagine ambulance would show up at people's homes without oxygen because of the state of our ambulances. We had to invest millions into that as well. These are very basic things we had to invest in, millions upon millions of dollars to get us to the sustainable island state so that we can survive. So that is where our focus has been. This is a different reality. It is a different world. And the other thing that we're looking at is national health insurance. We have the study is completed. I've met with the actuarian, Mr. Derek Osborne. He's from Bahamas. And it's done. That is our big thrust in 2026 to get our people fully insured. You hear people sick and they're walking around with sponsorship. We have to prioritize, asking our people to prioritize as a country. The realities are different. I know I took the children off the street with sponsorships. And we have spent significantly to take care of our children so that no mother with a child in St. Kitts and Nevis has to go around with a sponsorship anymore or put up a GoFundMe. Because unless they choose to, but we are funding our children who necessarily need medical treatment, advanced medical treatment overseas. And we have saved a lot of children. That is where we have pumped our money. And now we want to get to the stage where we have national health insurance, a national plan that can cover almost all of our people, if not all of our people. That is going to require us to contribute to some extent to it. You can't have it any other way. And anybody who says you can have it any other way, they are fooling you. That is why for the last 7 years, no health insurance, no hospital, no school, no water, no energy. Look at it. Nothing at all. And they were boasting surplus after surplus. But look at how vulnerable you left the people. Totally vulnerable. And so we have to decide as a people where our realities and where our priorities are. And that is why the Sustainable Island State Agenda is so critically important. Too many basic things were missing that we are trying to now put in place. Imagine a government that was speaking of surplus after surplus and could not supply its people with 24/7 potable water. Do you know what the lack of water causes? More deaths. Why people die more? One, when you don't have enough water, you're least likely to drink more water. When you don't have enough water, you're least likely to wash your hands as often as you should. When you don't have enough water, your hygienic practices are not as they should be. Imagine you come from a party 2 o'clock in the morning. You turn on your pipe and no water. You're sweaty. You're around people who probably smoking and drinking and all these things. And you say, man, I want a bath to take off all of that germs. No water. You're gone in your bed with all that germs. What do you think happened? The vulnerable people get sick. Your own immune system is under attack. Your own constitution is under attack. You mean when you're cooking, you can't wash your vegetables as just showed you, high water going by, let me just use a little bit of water. The lack of water leads to more death. So I only use water just to show you how basic it is. And in order for us to deal with that matter, we had to invest tens of millions of dollars. So it's a different reality. It's a different reality. And it is not talking about luxurious things. It is talking about a very basic thing, such as water. We have invested, and we'll invest in what is necessary for our long-term survival. It's very important, Mr. Batt.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister.
Good afternoon.
Well, you already answered one of my questions about the agriculture inputs.
Yes.
As you just mentioned, the government has done so much to push forward its CISA, the Sustainable Island State Agenda. But what is being done to prepare the people on the ground, the ordinary citizens and divisions, for this new transition towards a cleaner, greener St. Kitts and Nevis? And my second question, there's been much public discourse, public conversation about the measures being put in place to curb speeding and reduce road fatalities and accidents. Can you give any update on any additional measures, particularly in regards to the speed cameras that many people have been talking about recently, and any other measures that the government plans to put in place to further reduce these incidences?
Thank you very much. And I wouldn't stay as long as I stayed on these fundamental questions of the economy and destiny and so forth. But with respect to agriculture, as I answered that question, we are going to address it, and the government is going to fund that, and we'll have the first account with $1 million deposit within the next couple of weeks. Right now, we have feed, and that will continue accordingly. With respect to the CISA, as you know, part of the budget consultation was to introduce that. But CISA sound too fancy sometimes. I want to break it down. Very simple. You know what is CISA? Water. Having enough water. And saying to our people, conserve water, protect water, and we investing in water. That's part of the CISA. So if you have a farmer who is growing food to give us enough food, and you're growing food in your backyard, that's part of CISA. Sustainable Island State, food security. So almost everything that goes towards strengthening us as a country, that is part of CISA. Energy, water, food security, health, IT and so forth. All of that is part of CISA. So our people are already participating in our CISA agenda, but we, as you said, we have to streamline it and let them know where they are doing. So our people are already on track for it. And I want to say, with respect to getting to that state where we are water security, food security, energy security, healthcare, education and so forth. All that is, those things are part of CISA. We are well on our way. We are well on our way. We just have to continue to prioritize the investment. I mean, these are tough decisions for me. You know how much easier it would be if I say, look, no water, no hospital, no school, no this, no insurance, no this. Abandon all of that and say, over here, we're going to just give. That ain't important. Well, how that is going to... So we have to work out as a country. Just like you do your budget at home. If I ain't pay my water bill and my water get cut off, and I could say, man, I got money in my pocket, but you ain't got no water. How that makes sense? I got money in my pocket, but you ain't got no electricity. Look at it at the country level. God, that is what was happening. You're pretending you got the money, but you're going to deprive the people of water, electricity, healthcare, and those things. And it's not just that you don't have, it's that these things make you more vulnerable. Your survival become more at risk. Because in this scourge of climate change, there's very little room to maneuver. You either do it or you don't do it. And if you don't do it, these are the consequences. So everybody's participating in CISA already, and that's a very good question. It's just for us to let people know this is what you're doing and to encourage them to continue to work towards a sustainable island state. So you have a responsibility as well. When you're in your home, part of a sustainable island state is to make sure we conserve energy. Just turn off your lights. When you finish with the light, turn it off. That's you participating in the sustainable island state agenda. Simple as that. When you're going to the bathroom and you're brushing your teeth, You don't have to let the water run all the time while you're brushing your teeth. While you're brushing, you turn off the water when you're ready to rinse and so forth. You turn on the water. Water conservation. That's part of it as well. Food security. Can I have a small backyard garden and make more food available in general? That's adding. I have a backyard garden myself. And I got bananas there, I got peas, I got sweet pepper, I got all kind of things. I got jelly, you know, and I went and I picked some banana the other day. And, you know, I mean, when they used to buy it, if I had to buy it outside, that's less to buy outside because some of it coming from overseas. And I got my banana there, and you could crush banana, and you could fry banana, you could do all kind of things with banana. But I'm simply telling you, even me as the Prime Minister, with my bananas in the backyard garden, and I pick my banana, and I share my banana with my sisters and my neighbors. I mean, can you imagine if a lot of people would just have a little spot in the backyard? That's part of the sustainable island state. And if I could go out there with me barefoot as the Prime Minister, well, who can't go out there? You know, I like to connect with this side, but I'm just simply saying that might be me. You may not want to be in agriculture, but you can do something else that helps towards the sustainable island state, right? So that is a very good point. Now, you asked about the fatalities on the road. The photo radar system, still intact. I see some fake news out there. Why this fake news that I see people quoting called Times Caribbean? Fake news. When they ain't got no news to report, if they fake it. AI. Yeah, just go in AI and fake it. The amount of fake news I just see come out on Times Caribbean, I say, my God, I wonder who handling that. You're right, it gotta be AI, because I don't think, you really think we got people who are gonna just lie when people know the truth around here? So the photo radar system, as we did as a pilot study, and we said that straight up, it'll be piloted first for the first few months, and then we'll go into a long-term arrangement. And since that, we have seen people slow down. So I hope it didn't have people out there who thinking that the photo radar system really wasn't working and they speed up, you know, because I'm sorry, they will get the ticket. But what we have come to recognize is that we're not interested in ticketing people. We really wanted the traffic to slow down. Since we have put it in place, I don't think we had any fatalities. And I think we're averaging almost a fatality a month. And we passed the first month without a fatality on the road. That's a life saved. That's somebody who reached home to their family. That's a life saved. And the thing is, it says 60 kilometers per hour, and some people interpreting that for 40 kilometers per hour, right? Because one day I was in and my security was driving, and I realized they're going slow. I said, so what is slowness about? I don't drive fast. I said, don't break the speed limit. When I looked, they're going 40 kilometers per hour. I said, no, the speed limit is 40 miles per hour, which is about 62 kilometers per hour. By the time they reach up to 60 kilometers per hour, you're moving at a comfortable rate. So I realized a lot of people were really cutting back to 40 kilometers per hour instead of 40 miles per hour. So obviously they will go very slow. So I think the police and traffic authorities sought to clarify that. And that helped tremendously. So I want to say that it continues to be revived. We have seen a significant reduction in the average speed. And with that, we have seen a reduction in the number of accidents and the number of deaths in the short period of time compared to other periods. This, of course, we want a whole, 3 months to pass, a quarter, to get a full statistical analysis to compare. But what we have seen thus far is that the number of accidents have reduced, and the fatalities, we have not seen any fatalities. And I continue to ask people, please be reminded to drive with due care and attention, and to know that the photo radar system is working, and to ignore the fake news coming from maybe this is in the forum to address them in a particular way. I'll choose the forum to address them in a particular way, other than to say the fake news is real, and the only thing real about the fake news is that it is fake news, and to really ask our people to rely on official communication channels such as the St. Kitts and Nevis Police Force website and Facebook page, And I think our professional day is doing an excellent job to keep the public updated. SKNS for ZIZ for official, accurate news and to ignore the fake page where the people are hiding so that they can continue to use a platform to spew bad things. And let me talk about these fake pages, they don't like when things going good in St. Kitts, Some of them out there itching, they want something bad to happen so they can report it. Can you imagine that? People just want a bad thing to happen to report. They ain't feel good when people not shooting down people, Some of them vex. They will want to hear some shooting somewhere so they can run and report it. Oh, they have shooting in St. Kitts and Nevis. So they get very uncomfortable when there is no murders. And instead of being happy, they are upset. And they want to invent them with the fake news. But they want to advise our people to continue to abide by the law. That all of us should continue to work together to make St. Kitts and Nevis as safe as possible. And so I would like to say, fake news really should be abandoned. But as far as the photo radar system, it's working. And I ask people to be very mindful. Do not allow the fake news to make you make bad decisions. But even without the photo radar system, I ask people, please abide by the traffic laws.
I kind of want to piggyback with afternoon, Prime Minister.
Good afternoon.
The traffic question.
Yes.
The other question that's been asked is whether or not the speed limits, given our modern roads and new vehicles, it's not a bit slow. Maybe we need to look at increasing them in some areas, maybe not villages, but for our highways. The other question that I really want to ask, because you pretty much touched on everything today, COP30, COP30 just finished in Brazil recently. I think it's finished right now. One of the things coming out of that, though, was the fact that there is a commitment to provide greater funding for countries most affected by climate change. Regrettably, however, there still was no firm decision on addressing fossil fuels and the damage that they directly cause to us and the impact that the use of fossil fuels has on climate change and its impacts. So I don't know if you want to comment on that, because I know Honorable Clark was there as St. Kitts and Nevis's representative. And as we have spent considerable time today discussing the impacts of climate change on our region and other small island developing states, just looking for you for some comment on that.
Thank you very much. Well, with respect to COP30, I want to thank the Honorable Dr. Joy Clark for really leading the team to Brazil to participate in that. As you know, there were some good things coming out, and not to mention fossil fuel as a direct cause of climate change and all of the consequences of that. That to me is a bit disappointing, especially because I'm living in a region, the Caribbean region, where we are affected disproportionately by the scourge of climate change. We contribute hardly anything to it, yet we suffer the most as a result of it. And therefore, I'm simply saying that we really, really need to continue to advocate very strongly for more climate justice. The cost of climate change is extremely expensive. Climate change is now costing Jamaica lives and over $8 billion in damages. Where is Jamaica going to get that money from? The insurance that Jamaica is going to get is a few $100 million US dollars, few $100 million US dollars, which is a drop in the bucket compared to what the real damage is. Jamaica is not going to recover that area to the point where it was developed for a very long time. Where's the money going to come from? That is what climate change is causing. Lives, deaths, destruction, economic devastation, risking the very survival of communities and countries. And so we in the Caribbean, we have to take this climate change matter seriously. That is why we have to get to a sustainable island state. That is why that is the priority. We need healthcare infrastructure, we need housing infrastructure, we need water infrastructure, we need energy infrastructure, all these things, food security, healthcare security. These things should be our priority. And we have invested millions of dollars into them. And we'll continue to invest. These are tough decisions. Because sometimes it's easier to ask about some other things than to ask about the more sustainable long-term things. But if you don't do that, and a hurricane hits, and the people are not secured, then they would say, look to me and say, but you heard about climate change. You spoke about it. Why you ain't do anything about it? Well, I didn't do anything because the people asked for something else. The people will say to me, but we'd make you a leader to make the decisions even when it's tough, to protect us, and you have failed to do such. So one thing I would not be accused of is not to prioritize what is fundamentally important to protect our people. And at this time, as I talk about climate change, it is very important. So I am disappointed that that was not mentioned in the last COP, and there seems to have been some softening up. And I'm hoping that we can get back to where we are supposed to be. We'll continue in St. Kitts and Nevis to advocate, to invest where we have to invest, to push for renewable energy so that we can help to protect and safeguard our planet. Right now, it is bad because we have surpassed the 1.5 degrees Celsius. In any hurricane season, we are extremely high risk that a Caribbean country would be hit by a Category 3 or stronger hurricane. And the Category 5s are becoming more often. 2 Category 5s passed through the region this year. Fortunately, one of them missed all of the islands, but the second one punished Jamaica and then went on to hit Cuba and had impact in Haiti and Bahamas and other areas. That's the new reality. And where would Jamaica get hundreds of billions of dollars from to build a country that is so resilient? That is the cost it would cost a country like Jamaica. Where's that money going to come from? That money should come from those who have contributed most to the climate change. That is climate justice. You cause the problem, you pay for it. But here's Jamaica contributed very little to climate change and is being punished by a Category 5 hurricane that has caused deaths and destruction of property and economic devastation. And so therefore, we must continue to push as countries that are most affected by climate change for justice in all aspects, cutting the fossil fuel, funding our resilience, funding to cut our vulnerability, and helping our transition. We just don't have the money in St. Kitts and Nevis for that. That is why we have to prioritize. Nobody is coming to give us that. You know how hard it is to get climate funding? You have to meet all of these measures. Right now, we are trying to get some money for our water. And we can't get it. You have to go to this and that and that and that. So while they are out there putting us through all of these hoops to get some money for water, we have to rush to invest and take up $50 million plus in cash to quickly get us a desalination plant. Because if we don't do anything, look at what happened to Shadwell. Shadwell would not have had any hope. But Shadwell has a lot of hope because the desalination plant is basically completed and it will be commissioned before the year is done. And we'll invite, of course, the press and everybody to see it. It is really beautiful to see as a piece of engineering infrastructure. Very, very well put together. And so, yes, we will continue to advocate for climate justice and continue to seek how we can build a more resilient and less vulnerable St. Kitts and Nevis. But it's rough out there.
If you're going to, I'll just allow me to follow up on that because
Sure.
you spoke to the fossil fuels, but I want to know specifically now that they have made a commitment to help. They have indicated a figure that they're comfortable with assigning to provide this help. How are we going to ensure that it's not just a talk shop and we get the monies that they're saying we're going to get?
There's no way we can ensure that. We cannot ensure anything because last time with the Paris Agreement and with the previous COP, a whole heap of money is always pledged. And what you actually get is a drop in the bucket. There's nobody coming to save us. And we have to understand that as a people, nobody is coming to save us. These pledge and pledge and pledge, a lot of the times they're just pledges. And this small amount cannot fundamentally transform us and make us fundamentally more resilient. We have to do it ourselves. Dear people of St. Kitts and Nevis, nobody is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. That is the message I want to convey. So I have no confidence in that. If it works out, I'll be, I will welcome it, but I am not hanging my hat on that because we have seen what has happened over time. We have to save ourselves.
So if we can't depend on them, but we still can't disengage.
No.
So we have to participate.
Correct.
Otherwise, we are essentially left out of the whole process.
Right. And we have participated very strongly and will continue to participate. The Honorable Dr. Joya Clark was there and she represented well with a very strong team. So we will never disengage. However, I will say I will not depend on it. I will have a plan independent. So whatever comes from that, we'll consider it to be gravy. But we have to put our own plans in place and work our plans and not depend on them. Right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My two questions.
Yes.
For a while, there's been some public discourse about the number of trips that ministers you take. Can you say what the goal of these trips is and share some of the benefits that have been gained for the people of St. Kitts Nevis as a result? And given the year we've had, the manifestations of climate change, inflation, heightened conversations around food security, what will be the spirit of this upcoming budget?
Thank you very much. I want to thank you. Very pointed questions and important questions. On the matter with climate change and food security, and I discussed with the FS this morning, will be a fundamental part of our budget in the sense that we have to make sure that we continue to strengthen here in St. Kitts and Nevis our agricultural output. And so this budget would reflect that. As I tell you, even before the budget is passed, that account with that amount of seed money will be put there. Now, Roma asks a very important question about the travels. And this is where it comes in. When I went to Taiwan and I discussed with Taiwan, as you saw, I visited a farm there because we are now going to strengthen our collaboration with Taiwan in terms of our food security. And I discussed with them about how can we collaborate to establish a fund and seed monies in there so that we can have the inputs for agriculture. So that trip to Taiwan, and let me say, it was a sponsored trip by Taiwan, cost the government nothing. And a lot of these trips I go on, a lot of times they cost the government nothing. All of my trips to Africa cost the government nothing. So I tell people, if you want me to come that far and I want to go, can you sponsor the trip? So when I went to Ethiopia, it was sponsored. When I went to Nigeria, it was sponsored. And so when I went to Taiwan, it was sponsored. So a lot of these trips are sponsored. Of course, we pay for some, but I wanted to put that on the table. So in terms of the benefits, that's one of the benefits. I was able to meet with the Taiwanese president and the Taiwanese officials and discuss the matter of food security, for which we have secured some funding. The second matter was when I went to Taiwan, I was able, with the Minister of Education, Deputy Prime Minister, secure 2 electric buses, which will be here. They are finished basically, and there's just some in one of them, and they should be here by February, just the shipping. They should be here. That is what traveling does. I couldn't stay here, we couldn't stay here and get something like that. I went there and I discussed our electrical grid, and I discussed it with the foreign minister and the Taiwanese officials. The ICDF, which is an organization owned by the Taiwanese government, and they are now coming to look and study our grid to build resilience, because we are asking, can you collaborate with us to get our grid more secured or even underground? This is very important. I can't stay in St. Kitts and Nevis and negotiate something like that. I was able to negotiate the desalination plant. I was able to negotiate on other trips the hospital. So out of my trips have come hospital, desalination plant, and so forth, to make sure that we can build our sustainable island. So that is how the trips work. For example, going to Colombia, where we were able to discuss with the Minister of Health our collaboration, because a lot of our people go to Colombia, and we are going to do an MOU. I spoke to the Vice President and the President as well from Colombia. I can't stay in St. Kitts and do that. That is a direct benefit of traveling. When I travel to the United Nations, there's no other space that allows you to meet other world leaders like the United Nations to discuss very important and pertinent matters. When we travel and we discuss our security matters and collaboration to have that done, these are the kind of things that the trips actually bring out. So they're not just trips for trips' sake. And usually when I travel, the schedule is hectic, but it's to make sure that all of these benefits would be derived to the benefits or the benefit of our people. That is what these trips are about. And if you follow the trips, I usually say when I'm traveling, I don't hide it, where the trip I'm going. And I usually come back, that is when I host my roundtable, soon after a trip, to update the country as to why I travel or what I did when I travel. So I spoke about traveling to Colombia, to Taiwan, to return to St. Kitts and Nevis. What was discussed in Colombia, what was discussed in Taiwan, and what the benefits are for our people. So that's the purpose of the trip. So these are not just trips for trips' sake. And the trips are, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are sponsored. So, and cost the government nothing for me to travel. And so I think that answers the question. Thank you very much.
My last question,
Mr. On food security? Oh, yes. So the spirit of the upcoming budget will have within it the continued development of our sustainable island state. But fundamental to this that we are looking at, the matters of cost of living and food security and how we can continue to strengthen that. Jobs, what are we going to do to make sure there are more jobs, the investment opportunities which we are going to strengthen to create more jobs, and how can we secure our people with respect to the scourge of climate change. So it will have those things in it. We have to attack the matter of cost of living and the cost of food. We have to deal with the matter to continue to produce more jobs, and how can we secure our people fundamentally through healthcare, housing, and so forth. So that will be the spirit in which the budget this year would be written.
My last question. Mr. Prime Minister, you have been engaged, I'm sure, with your counterparts in the region, CARICOM counterparts. And what has been the fallout, the impact of Trinidad and Tobago's position in support of the United States government and its military action against Venezuela? How has this affected CARICOM in its operations and in the ideology and policies of CARICOM?
Thank you very much. These are real fundamental questions. First, let me say to all people that CARICOM is very beneficial to St. Kitts and Nevis. CARICOM seeks the exam, for example. And why I say something as basic as that is that St. Kitts and Nevis can't do it by itself. CARICOM CDEMA, that's to do with disaster response. St. Kitts by itself cannot respond to disasters. We are too small, and so we collaborate in the ambit of CARICOM to make us more resilient. In terms of our diplomacy, if I show up as just all the time as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, some people will brush me off and say St. Kitts and Nevis is small. When I show up as part of CARICOM, the conversation changes. Like when I went to Africa and I was the host on the CARICOM side along with the President of Angola in the first ever face-to-face Africa CARICOM or AU CARICOM summit. I am there not just as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, but as the incoming chief of CARICOM. So from a geopolitical standpoint, CARICOM is very important to St. Kitts and Nevis and to all of us who are members. And we should never, ever think that we should go it alone. And our people should understand the importance of CARICOM. And I use the word sexy because we just go and write sexy. That's a CARICOM entity. It's as simple as that. CDEMA. So RSS, the regional security systems, as a CARICOM measure. At any given point, anything happening in St. Kitts, I pick up the phone and I call. Planes landing on the tarmac, ships coming to protect St. Kitts and Nevis. There's a CARICOM entity. And therefore, I'm simply saying that CARICOM continues to serve St. Kitts and Nevis and all of its members very well. There has been recent developments, as you know, but I think fundamentally CARICOM is extremely strong and we'll hold it together. St. Kitts and Nevis will support the integrity of CARICOM. We will never put that at risk. I can tell you where our position is. St. Kitts and Nevis will continue to advocate very strongly for a zone of peace. And we'll continue to ask the United States of America and Venezuela to seek to resolve the matters diplomatically. That has been our official position and will continue to be our official position. We don't know about war. We don't understand what war is. We hear, of course, we have something happening there and something happening there. A war is a whole different paradigm that we can't even imagine because we have never seen it. And so when I see people online trivializing the fact that we are a zone of peace, and of course you continue to establish that and you continue to work for more security and peace, but to deny that we don't have wars in the region is against what the facts are. A zone of peace means that there is no open war, and conflict between countries. We have our security issues, and what we are seeking to do, how we can work together to make our countries more secure. Imagine when you're at war and you walk out, you know where the bomb coming from. Soldiers coming in, knocking down your door, and you never see the people yet. You hear rape of children and rape of women. People losing limbs and head and body parts and all these things. I'm saying it this raw because this is what war is. We don't know that. Even though a country might have some violence and crime, generally you feel that, man, I could drive from my place and go up to the Roundtable and I'm okay. In a war, you can't be secured that you'll be okay. You don't know where the war plane coming from. You don't know where the bomb coming from. You don't know where the bullet coming from. And so we are a zone of peace. For the last 200 years or so, I think, we have not had open conflict between two countries in the region. We have had internal conflict, but no two countries have gone to war or declared war. This is a tremendous achievement. Understanding you had World War I and World War II that took place in Europe. Europe that is supposed to be so developed and so advanced and civilized had two of the most brutal conflicts where human beings died like animals in the millions. And this region avoided that. And we're going to take that lightly? Can't take that lightly. That's a tremendous achievement. And that is why all of us should say we have to maintain this region as a zone of peace. And so we call on the Americans and we're calling the Venezuelans, maintain the region as a zone of peace, meet and dialogue and work out the differences. CARICOM can play a role, CILAC can play a role, but don't abandon peace in the region. Because if that peace is ruptured, nobody knows where that would end up. Venezuela has over 20-something million people. Trinidad has, well, 1 million-something people, maybe 2 million the most, if that much. So Trinidad has 1/10 of the population of Venezuela. Venezuela has warships, war this, war that, war that. If you start a conflict, they're going to go a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. How can you sustain? You don't know how long the conflict will go on for. So avoid it at all costs. There are wars that last decades. And even when you don't have any declared war, the conflict that remains create an area of such insecurity. And I'm passionate about it because we don't know what war is in the Caribbean, and I don't want us to know what war is. Let us fight always to maintain a zone of peace. And that is our official position. Dialogue over conflict. Peace over war. Diplomacy is the most fundamental and important instrument of resolving conflicts, right? So I really hope that that would be the pathway that is chosen. All right, yes. Right, so I think I'll wrap it up now. I want to thank the members from the media for this engagement. Again, I like the roundtable format because we can dialogue and more things can come out. And so I can share more information with our people. I want to say to our people that you can expect the construction of the houses to continue. We are going to now start housing construction in Newton Ground. Sandy Point will also see, and right here in constituency number 3. So we'll have houses being built all around the country. The construction of the hospital will start this year. As I've said before, we are on track to start full construction this year. I want to also say that the desalination plant, all areas of the desalination plant has been tested. Right now, they have produced near 2 million gallons of water. So when you see the tank, weight is, it has about 2 million gallons of water up there already. So we know it's working, so we're going to commission that this year as well. The one in Keys is already working, fully working and delivering water to the tune of about 60,000 gallons per day. And we're going to commission that as well. The Basti High School is going through all of its iterations for full construction. The Fort Thomas Hotel area that has started, and I want to say that there was a historic wall that was questioned that will be preserved, that will not be touched, but that construction has started, and in short order, if you go there, you'll see the significant amount of work being done. I will meet with the people from Ritz-Carlton the 5th, I think, of December. I am to discuss further plans, and as I've told you, we will not abandon the vendors over at that area who are squatting. We will do all we can to relocate them in a tourist area and assist them in relocation so that they can continue their economic activity and the hotel can be built. The hotel will really lift St. Kitts and Nevis. That will be a major achievement for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Safe Harbor will start its full operation in December. They already have done a significant amount of work, and so they will start the full. So we expect to see a full yachting industry along with a cruise industry, construction taking place. And so we expect economically a lot of economic activity to take place while we diversify the economy and build towards a sustainable island state. And so we will prioritize these things to secure our country and to secure fundamentally our people. So this is an update that I wanted to bring to our people, and I want to thank you, our people who have joined us today and joined me in putting before you the fundamental issues that are affecting our country at this particular time. And even when I touch on the part of the SSD, I want to say to all people, the SSD is a law, and the SSD will protect us. Any development to come must pass the litmus test of the SSD. And as I've said, I will strengthen the SSD, and the SSD has nothing to do with Destiny. Destiny is a project that is being proposed. I have not received anything on it, but when it comes, it has to go through the litmus test where it must be development that fall within the ambit of our Constitution. If it does not, it has to amend itself. I cannot pass through. And therefore, the SSD is for more transparency and to make sure our people know of any major development coming to St. Kitts and Nevis. Not like in the past when these developments used to just be signed off in cabinet, and after that, nobody knows about them. Today, our people are engaged because this law, the SSD, forces all of major developments to be discussed and be discussed in public. So I would like to reassure our people that we'll continue to work to build a greater St. Kitts and Nevis, a sustainable island state where we continue to not just survive, but thrive. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. May God bless all of us.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your thoughtful engagement and for once again taking the time to meet with members of the media in this open and transparent forum. Your continued commitment to dialogue underscores the government's dedication to accountability, good governance, and keeping our people informed every step of the way. We also extend our sincere appreciation to all media houses represented here today and to our broadcasting partners who continue to air these discussions live, helping to connect citizens at home and abroad to the pulse of national life. And to you, our viewers and listeners, thank you for tuning in, for sharing your feedback, and for remaining part of these important national conversations. This has been the Roundtable with the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terrance Drew. Until next time, take care and continue to stay informed.